Hey there, this is Face the State for Sunday, May 11th. Happy Mother's Day out there. We're in a little bit of pink, and you know what? Seems like lawmakers were busy trying to impress their moms, or at least the voters when it comes to passing a number of new bills. How about adult use marijuana? It is moving further than ever before in the State House, but that doesn't mean it'll actually make it to the finish line. Maybe help mom get a real ID. This year, voter ID requirements are also moving through the State House. We'll talk about that. And it's the first ever Sunday where we have an American-born Pope. Which Americans are cheering the loudest when it comes to the potential papal policies? Try saying that 5 times fast.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Did you actually try saying that? We'll get back to that later. Hey, thanks for being here. For the first time this week, a plan legalizing recreational marijuana actually moved out of the chamber of the PA General Assembly. My first guest is the prime sponsor of the bill. It's Democratic Representative out of Philadelphia, Rick Krajewski. And that's also the place where the Pope went to school, Villanova. So Philly's even cooler now, right?
Absolutely. It's been quite a week for Philadelphia and for Pennsylvania.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So let's get into this. This has been out there for a while now. Of course, we have medical use marijuana a number of years ago. All of our neighbors have recreational use, or adult use is what we're calling it. Tell us what's going on here. How was it able to get further than ever before?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of this is it's time, right? We're now surrounded by 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Delaware, and Maryland, that have all legalized cannabis. We have Pennsylvanians across the state that are crossing state lines to purchase cannabis from other legal markets. And so we're losing dollars that we can be investing here in Pennsylvania businesses. We're also losing the opportunity to control the illicit market that exists here in Pennsylvania, and also some of the completely unregulated products that you can get from smoke shops, gas stations, vape stores. And so both in terms of public health, but also, in terms of the financial reasons for legalizing cannabis, I think we came to understand in the legislature it was time to take some bolder action.
Well, those arguments you just made are the same exact arguments I heard last year. It didn't go anywhere last year. So,
right.
What are we doing now? What's actually different?
Well, so one, I think Ohio maybe gave us some more motivation to do something, and Ohio coming closer to legalizing. 2 is the fact that, in the Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives, we've decided to make this a priority because we knew we needed to deliver for Pennsylvanians.
Okay.
We knew we needed to get a proposal forward. And so the Democratic caucus, myself, along with my co-prime chair, Representative Dan Frankel of the Health Committee, decided to come together with a product, HB 1200, a bill that we believed would be able to get the support of our chamber.
Okay, let's get into some details here. We know some House Republicans not happy with some of those details in the process to get
Sure.
there. Some say it was rushed through committee, introduced on a Sunday, not a lot of time to talk about it. What's your quick response on that criticism specifically?
So I would push back on that. As a subcommittee chair on the Health Committee, which is where this legislation was passed, we held 6 hearings on recreational adult use cannabis over the last year, which was attended by Democrats and Republicans, where we had discussions about the pros and cons of recreational cannabis, other states and the frameworks they've used to legalize cannabis. We've even heard from Quebec, actually, which has a public model around their retail market for cannabis. So we had a very thorough, extensive process that was engaged with in a bipartisan manner to get feedback and ideas about regulating cannabis. So I would push back on the idea that this was a last minute drop of policy.
Well, let's get to the other one that's maybe the most controversial part and could be the stickiest for you. It's state store model. So kind of like what we have for alcohol right now. Some people don't like that because there's already dispensaries out there doing the medical marijuana. Why not just involve them?
Sure. And so I'll say the way we've been kind of calling this is a hybrid model. Because the reality is, as our bill is structured, from the supply side, so from growing and cultivating cannabis to creating products and then transporting those products, all of that will still be private entrepreneurial opportunities, and we'll have licensing opportunities available for businesses that want to engage in that space with cannabis. We even have licensing opportunities available for the way we're kind of calling them is like consumption lounges. So you can think of a coffee shop or a lounge where someone could purchase and consume small amounts of cannabis on site, or maybe even like a bar is a good analogy. And then our primary source of retail would be through the expansion of our current state store system. And we did this for a couple of different reasons. One is you had mentioned the medical dispensaries. The reality is cannabis has kind of become a big business. There are 10 mega companies that own over 70% of the medical dispensaries in Pennsylvania. These are companies that have a combined valuation of over $6 billion. These are not the kind of mom and pop businesses that people like to think of when we think about entrepreneurial opportunities in cannabis.
Okay.
And the reality is we've seen these companies kind of create their own monopoly in other states, and they've used their resources to actually sue states who try to kind of level the playing field. So what you'll see states try to implement social equity guidelines to be able to allow communities and individuals who've been impacted by cannabis criminalization to engage in the cannabis space, whether it's through starting a dispensary or something else. And where states have done that, they've actually had they're called multi-state operators, MSOs. These MSOs have sued the states because they feel like they're being blocked from being able to enter the market. And so you have states that have had their whole timeline held up by these lawsuits from bad actors who basically want to control the entire.
So you think
this
would prevent that? I hear you. Let's get to one more thing here. This is going to need some cooperation to get through. We know that's how everything works, especially a big thing like this. We've already heard from some Republicans this thing's dead on arrival already. How do you get around that? You got about 45 seconds to try to talk me through it.
People say it's dead on arrival. I'll say it's a first step in a process. As you know, Pennsylvania legislature is all about negotiating and compromise. We put forward a bill that we believe represents our democratic values, but we also know that this is a process that involves the House, the Senate, and the governor. And so the way we're thinking of this legislation is this is our proposal for how to start with legalizing cannabis. And if the Senate has some alternative ideas, we can all come together and talk about what that looks like in House Bill 1200.
Yeah, eventually it seems like it's going to have to go that way, but I see what you're saying. We're on this part first. We're out there, and we've put our flag out there. We'll see how far we can get there.
And, as you know, bills get amended all the time based on feedback.
Got to start somewhere. I hear you. Hey, thanks for being here with us, Representative Krajewski, the person who single-handedly got the Pope elected. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Happy to do it. Thank you.
Have a good one. All right, folks, marijuana not the only controversial piece of legislation out there. Voter ID, what would that really look like? That is making a move here as well. We're talking about that coming up. So coming up this week, the State House could pass the new election laws that have been talked about for a long time. We're talking years, I guess. So right now I'm joined by Dauphin County Republican Representative Tom Mahaffey. You're behind some of this stuff. You have big ideas, and it looks like we're getting somewhere for once. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for the opportunity to come in. House Bill 771 has been a great bill. It originated from an amendment in last session, and now here we are with a bill in front of us. Okay,
so people hear voter ID and they're like, oh, what am I gonna have to do? Show it every time? Do I have the right stuff? Take us through some of the details here.
So it's funny, voter ID is not just the first thing you do when you come in to, when you go to vote, that's not what happens. You're gonna go in there, you're gonna give your name, they're gonna go to the book, or now it's electronic ebooks, and they're gonna identify who you are. If you're not identified at that point who you are, you're not in the book anywhere, that's when you go directly to a provisional ballot.
Right.
Okay? Now, you're identified who you are through the book, now you're going to identify who you are. And there's many different ways. Right now, what we did and how we originated this, so my colleagues that prime this piece of legislation are Casey Tomlinson and Frank Burns, a Republican and a Democrat. So we were able to come through this with a bipartisan way to take all of the identification that's in the law today and then elaborate on top of that. And that's really what we did.
Okay.
So at that point, you're going to give your identification from one of the ways, and there's many of them to do that.
Name a few, because people might be thinking, it's got to be a driver's license. Right? The real ID thing's become a nightmare for some people. But you have a lot of options, don't you?
You do. I mean, it can be a card issued by the state, the feds, the county. It can be your identification as far as your driver's license. It can be a utility bill, including a cellular bill. It can be many different things. What we did add, though, is an affidavit and a voucher.
Okay. What was kind of interesting when we were looking through this, the chair of the state government committee brought up this bill, even though I guess technically didn't support it. So how does that actually work?
This is bipartisanship at its best.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with them voting against it if that's what you feel and you want to do. We had a great debate. It was about 45 minutes. A lot of my Democrat colleagues did not like the bill and did vote against it in committee. I'm hoping that it'll change when it comes to the House floor, but she gave it an opportunity. And I think she saw from the vast array of people asking to do this bill throughout the years, the polling and the things that we see, I'm really happy that she was able to do that. And that's okay, and I'm all right with her voting against it.
Okay, so the thing about this is not just that. There's other things in this bill, right?
As far as voter identification?
Well, that come with this. Are you also talking about early voting? Is that part of this as well?
That is not part of this bill.
Okay.
That is another bill that they did that day.
Okay, so that is separated.
Correct.
Well, let's see how you feel about that then. This is a early in-person voting. It's allowed to pre-canvass all of those mail-in ballots that come in. That's one idea to make that process go faster, so election night we're not up so late. So what do you think about some of those pieces?
I do think that pre-canvassing is needed. I think you have to give your election bureaus the time at the counties to do that and get things in place. I think it's a great idea. I think it's something we talked about in the past. Unfortunately, it wasn't in Act 77 when we passed that in 2019, but I think that's one of them that we really should do.
Okay.
Early voting, I have mixed emotions on that because I think that puts a great strain on your workers. And I think voter ID, going back to that, I think that helps the workers. So there's no conflict about who you are and who's voting in front of you.
Okay. If someone doesn't have ID, what do they do at that point? So I think I read that they can sign an affidavit, that they claim who they are, a third party vouches for that person. How does that actually work?
Yeah, actually, there's two things in there that we looked at doing after the court case of 2012 was done and throughout voter identification.
Okay.
So we took what that court case said and we gave some extra options. So an affidavit would be you would sign that. There is a provision in there where there's a penalty, up to $10,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison. And the voucher is you would vouch for me and you would say this is me, and then you would sign on that. And same qualifications.
So going to second consideration this week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. How you feeling?
Feel good about it. I really do. I'm having conversations with colleagues, questions. There's a lot going on out there, so I feel really good about it.
Okay. Let's get to something else. I'm wearing the tie for Mother's Day. Thinking about chocolates, a lot of people. You're thinking about chocolate when it comes to the official state candy.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Hershey Kiss. Everybody loves a kiss. It's a unique bill. It's probably one of the most controversial bills I've had in a long time.
I get it.
We've been trying this. It started with a group of young ladies from Bucks County, and they started with a civics assignment, and they came up with this, and they called me, and here we are. Now they're seniors. They're ready to go on to college.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it get done before they go on to college.
Well, but you got all those peeps, in Bethlehem. They like that candy.
It's a great Easter candy.
Yeah.
But, the one thing the Hershey Kiss does, it helps underprivileged children. And I think what we've seen at Milton Hershey, and if anybody's been part of the Milton Hershey history, I think it's something great.
Interesting. And I guess, you're getting a little pushback. What are you guys doing with candy and doing bills on candy instead of working on everything else? What's your answer to that?
I always tell everybody, we're here to do a lot of different things. We have a great amount of confectionery chocolate makers, candy makers in this state.
Definitely.
I think we should have that as a symbol. It's something that, we've done over the years. We put different symbols out there. It may seem to some that it's, why do this? But I think it's something important. And I think any time that children want to get involved in a political...
That's the part that's cool.
The political theater.
Yeah.
This isn't theater for them. This is something that they did, something that's real. And I really appreciate that they're really trying to do this. They've been at the Capitol. They've been lobbying for it. I think it's great.
Okay.
I think it's a great experience for them.
And then final word on the budget. How's it looking right now in terms of timing?
Timing is everything in the budget. I've been through, this will be my 9th budget. Some went over, by a couple days.
Which
Some
is
went
fine.
over by a couple months.
Not so fine.
Not so fine. I think we'll come to a compromise where we can get it done within that time of a couple days.
Give me the biggest problem. That's the sticking point that you're seeing.
I think it's revenue.
Yeah.
It's really revenue.
Let's decide on what it is, the revenue.
You know,
Where are
revenue comes in. We have a lot of expenditures that we have to do, and I think it's going to be a challenge to get some of this revenue done. I think we saw that we had the vote on marijuana.
Yeah.
It came down to party lines. So we'll see what happens. It's one of those things that we have to figure out. But the revenue sources look good coming in from, after April from the Department of Revenue. So hopefully we'll have some good things.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show again. Good to hear you. And, voter ID is a hot topic. We'll see where it goes this time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, folks, coming up, lawmakers compromising to get a bill moving forward. Yeah, you heard about that. But what do our political insiders actually think, especially a recent member of the Senate? We're going to talk to him about that and the impact of the first American Pope on this Sunday. We'll see you in a minute. Once again, happy Mother's Day out there. It's my favorite time of the week, and it's our CBS 21 Political Insiders. Democratic strategist Mark Singal, Republican strategist Mike Regan. Let's get to it. Did you guys watch that debate we had here on CBS 21?
I did.
We had a few fireworks.
It was good. Yeah, it was good. I thought you did a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. We tried to wrangle them at times. Other times, I think it was a lot of good information. But there was a moment here I want you guys to react to. Let's watch this.
Okay, you didn't call me. I don't care. You can put your phone out how many times you want to, because you're the one at the last debate to say, well, if you lie to the people, they'll get their votes. So if you're lying to get their votes, I'm telling you you're lying.
Last note on that.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm not lying.
Oh.
I did call, and it's classic Wanda. She says, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then
No,
she
I
never
know
does
you're
it.
lying.
And I've heard that repeatedly, over and over at every door. So many doors I've gone to, Wanda. I thought it was just my experience with you, but
Man,
no, it's many people's
You don't have
experience.
proof and documentation. Stop telling a lie if you don't have proof. I have proof that you lied.
Okay. When this happens during a debate, who wins?
Neither of them. I think the public watches that and they get soured on politicians in general. But I must say that it was the end of that debate that was so disturbing to me, because she kept on that theme and used her closing argument to make a personal attack on her opponent. To me, what that says is that she's nervous and she considers him a front runner and a threat, and she was going to do anything she could to take him out.
Yeah, politically, when you're seeing some of that, what do you think?
Yeah, I know. I don't think debates really change too many people's minds. I think people know who they're going to vote for prior to a debate. But I'm saying today that God bless his soul, God rest his soul. But let's bring back Steve Reed. I think he was a great player at Harrisburg.
I've heard a few people say that, actually, that things were different then and they didn't. They miss him. Let's get into something I want to celebrate with everybody else. Villy, we got a Villanova Pope, everybody, and I think we can all claim him as being from Pennsylvania. Politically, though, what do you know about him so far, coming from the Republican point of view, and what he might do?
Yeah, I think he's the right guy at the right time. I think he's a little bit more conservative than Benedict. I think it's
Than Benedict?
or I'm sorry, than our previous Francis. Yes,
okay.
Francis, and I think that he, I think will bring a maybe a more conservative view, but not over the top.
Okay.
I think kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think he's very much like Francis in that he has a focus on the poor and the needy and has not hesitated to speak out in that regard. What I like about him is that he's down to earth, and it has. I don't know why it affected me so much, but I had a sense of peace and joy, oddly, when he was named.
Yeah.
Not just because he's an American, but because he does seem to bring a sense of style with him that makes sense.
He's actually Peruvian. Right?
American and
He's
Peruvian.
got dual citizenship, but born in Chicago, and so it's
Talked to a few people who went to school with him too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, in the same class that.
Very neat.
In Villanova. Now I'm not saying they played beer pong or anything.
No, I don't think he did that.
But he's a good guy.
All right, let's roll through some of these things right now. Voter ID bill, does this have a real shot, even though they've kind of widened it as to what an ID can be?
Well, the Republicans bring it up every single year, and they're trying to fix a problem that's non-existent. There really isn't any discernible voter fraud. That's 16 cases out of 5 million votes kind of thing. But still, it's a talking point for them to say, well, we're protecting the integrity of election. What it really is a series of new things just to make it tougher for certain people to vote.
How do you view
and
it?
that's
Interesting that it's a nothing burger, but 84% of the American people think there should be voter ID. I think it's appropriate that we bring it up, and why not? I mean, it's, you know, if anyone has any question, why should there be any voter fraud? You can't accept any voter fraud. Let's get it done.
Well, just make sure we understand, there is registration. When you register to vote,
Right.
you have to show ID, and that's on your permanent record. So you come in, and any additional stuff is superfluous to the
But
cause.
those people who are sitting behind the counters taking your vote, they're not trained to discern who's who and what's what.
Well, but
all
they
you
have
have
a
is a
signature.
signature there. That's
Great.
all.
So
but
it
they're
got
not
signed.
they're not handwriting experts that are sitting behind those counters. They're volunteers who work in the polls.
Well, we'll see if it gets further this time. Same thing with recreational marijuana. You've been in this. You've seen this so much. You were just a senator recently.
Yeah.
Sounds similar in some situations, but they're trying to tweak it and make it more like the state model for alcohol.
Yeah, it's DOA in the Senate because of the state store model.
Well, it was DOA other times too.
Well, they've
this
always
didn't
had
help,
this.
is what you're
yeah,
saying.
it definitely didn't help. You know, look, there's good people work at the LCB. I'm not trying to say that, but the LCB model is antiquated. It's inefficient. It's expensive. There's no way we can compete with the cartels, with the drug cartels, if we're selling it through the LCB system. So I think we need an independent board, and I think Dan Laughlin, who's the chairman of the Law and Justice Committee now, he is going to come up with a bill which is going to make a lot more sense.
30 seconds.
I think he's probably right. I think it's not going anywhere in the Senate because they don't trust the state store system to distribute and operate and sell marijuana. But the time is coming. The time is coming because all our neighboring states are moving toward recreational marijuana, and we can't afford to continue to lose that in finance.
As I've said many times before, peer pressure is not a good reason to do things, but it seems like it's going to happen in this situation.
We need the money. We need the revenue.
And that is the reason why eventually they'll come up with something. It just doesn't sound like it's this year again.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, folks, we're going to come right back, talk a little bit about Mother's Day, but I'm still celebrating the Pope. Billy, Billy! So the president appeared on The View this week in talking about the 2024 election. He said that he would have beaten Trump, still believes that. He suggests that it's sexism and racism as a reason or main reasons that Harris did not win. And overall, COVID had people just upset about everything, so it was hard for anyone to win in that cycle. What part of that would you like to attack?
I feel sorry for this guy. His family needs to quit trotting him out there. He's clearly, in some phase of dementia, and he can't put a sentence together.
Okay.
Why do they keep trotting him out? That's embarrassing.
All right.
I feel so bad.
I need you to deal with one of those.
Well,
reasons.
I don't agree with that at all. I
Okay.
think he was perfectly cogent in that interview.
But-
and there's some truth to this, the question about sexism and racism. That was underlying a lot of the angst that some of the voters had, and they went to the polls with. However, would it have changed the election? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think that he had lost a few steps.
All right, well, let's get to the final thing. Say hi to any mother out there you'd like to say hello
Well, I'm delighted to say hello to every mother
Okay.
everywhere, and happy
Politician
Mother's
takes
Day.
care of everybody.
My beautiful wife and the mother of my 4 kids, but
Yep.
my mom turned 95 this year.
That is
God bless
amazing.
her. She is so
Hey.
wonderful.
That is
And
amazing.
we're really, really happy.
right.
She's still with us.
Yes, that's awesome. All right, well, I will say happy Mother's Day to all the great mothers out there. Number one, the mother of my kids. So, love you, thank you, and I bet you're not watching this because you're doing nothing today, which is exactly what you wanted. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and Billy Billy to all.